Well, welcome everyone. I invite you all, I think some people are still trickling in, so I invite everybody to fully join the room by sharing their name and something this morning that got your day started with joy. And we'll take about 2 minutes to read them in silence as we wait for everyone to settle. Go on and keep dropping these things that brought us joy already this morning. Thank you for playing. Good morning and welcome to All Children Excels Nashville's Healing Centered Communities quarterly conversation. Wow, that was a mouthful. And we are so grateful you chose to spend this hour with us this morning for this conversation. Today's conversation is going to be healing through connection, and it centers a simple but powerful truth that connection is not simply meaningful, it is protective. At All Children Excel Nashville, our mission is to promote positive childhood experiences and prevent and lessen the long term effect of childhood adversity. And the Healing Centered Communities Work Group helps advance that mission by creating space for dialogue, learning, and action around what truly builds wellness in our communities. So today won't be a lecture, it's going to be a shared conversation grounded in lived experiences, relationship, and collective wisdom. And of course, before we begin, I'm going to ground us in shared agreements. As I read them, if there's anything else you want to add to the list, please feel free to drop it in the chat and we will add it to the list of agreements. So I will also paste it in the chat. Today, we are going to agree to respect all voices because all experiences matter. Speak from your own experience. So we welcome I statements. Listen with curiosity so you can lower judgment, confidentiality where appropriate, and voice and choice. So participate in a way that feels right for you because everything is by invitation and not by force. All righty. As we jump into the conversation, of course, we want to transition with a grounding practice. So, to honor this time, I am going to invite Rodney Solomon to guide us into a grounding practice focused on presence and connection.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate those agreements. Peace and love, family. Name is Rodney Solomon, and I am grateful to be here. And one thing before we can connect with each other, I realize it's so important and necessary that we first connect with ourselves, and through taking the time to just create space to pause and really be aware of like, okay, how am I showing up into this space? What energy am I carrying? And then from there, we could begin to say, okay, what can I release right now? Taking a moment just to pause and to create space to let go of some tension and then consciously bring ourselves back into a state of regulation. And then when we're able to find that inner connection, it only enhances and transforms the connection we can have with one another, allowing our best version to show up. So I invite us, it's invitational, find a comfortable position. It's going to be a little snack size, kind of like a little Costco free sample, and just giving us a little taste of of how a practice like this could support us throughout our day. And it could be very simple and practical so we can all make this a reality. So I'd invite us to find comfort in our position. You can have your back against your chair, or I would encourage to come to the edge of your seat and just find a steadiness, and if you can, maybe tilt your hips slightly forward and allow your spine to sit up a little bit taller. And as we're finding a place of comfort, I invite you to close your eyes if you find comfort and safety in your environment, or you can keep your eyelids slightly open. You know, the goal is to really let go of the world on the outside and create a deeper space to connect to our world inward. And just tune in with yourself. Strange question, but ask yourself, how do I know my body exists right now? And don't answer it logically. Really connect and just feel the presence. How much tension, tightness, how much calmness, relaxation. What energy is present in my body right now? And then lastly, ask yourself, how do I know I'm breathing?
Walk in the grocery store, he says hi to everybody.
Hey, notice the sound in the background. Notice how it pulls your attention away. And see if you could be focused just for a moment. Good. And now let's let all that go. I invite you to make a gentle fist with both your right and left hand. As you inhale in through your nose, squeeze both your bicep, raise your shoulders up, create a bit of tension, hold it here, pause and notice it. Exhale, let everything go. Every thought of responsibility, everything on your to-do list, and just notice what you can feel. One last time, squeezing both palms together, tensing up the forearm. Inhale, shoulders come up, bicep tight, maybe your jaw clenches a bit. Feel that tension inside. And exhale, side out, let go of everything. And just give yourself the permission. Could I just notice what's happening right now? Not the next minute, not what happened before I came here. And truly connect to what's happening in this moment. And to clear all that out, I'd invite you to take one deep breath in through our nose, nice and steady, down deep into the belly. Hold it just for a second. And we're going to exhale out of our nose, nice and steady, nice and controlled. And again, inhaling in through our nose, deeper into the belly. Feel the rib cage open. Hold that breath just for a second. Notice that space. Exhale out of the nose, even slower and controlled. One last time. Inhaling deep, slow, and controlled. Hold it just for a second. And as you exhale, as long and slow as you can. And just notice. I invite you to put a gentle smile on your face. Direct the energy of that smile right into your heart. And just bring a thought of gratitude, of appreciation. And with that smile on your face, I invite us all to softly and slowly bring that smile back into this room. That energy of your gratitude and appreciation, can someone else feel it through your screen? And in that space of connecting to ourselves, let's allow ourselves to bring that energy to connect with each other. And if you like, a little cherry on top, you put a little in the chat, man. How you feeling? What are you grateful for? Spread some of that light, and I'll pass the mic back to Miss Annie. Thank you for having me.
Oof, that was good. Thank you, Rodney. Oh, now I'm going to invite everyone to carry that same sense of presence and connection into our conversation. So we often talk about prevention in terms of programs or services, but prevention also lives in relationships. And across the country, loneliness, social disconnection are now being recognized as public health crises. So at the same time, research on positive experiences tells us that strong relationships and belonging are powerful protective factors. So young people and the adult tasked with guiding them don't just need services, they need connection. Families don't just need access, they also need belonging. So, today in our conversation, we're going to explore how community building itself is prevention. To get the conversation started, in the chat, I invite you to answer the following question in one word. What does connection mean to you? What does connection mean to you in one word? Seeing love, attunement, safety, concern, belonging, bonding, together, wholeness, together, friendship, safety, consciousness. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So please continue to drop your one word response as we transition into the panel discussion. So to help us explore this more deeply, we're honored to learn from three beautiful leaders we have here today. I'm excited to introduce, in alphabetical order, Flora Baca, who is a dedicated trainer, consultant, and childhood advocate specializing in infant and early childhood mental health, behavior guidance, and cultural responsive education. With extensive experience supporting educators, families, and community organizations, she has led statewide initiatives to promote trauma-informed, inclusive, and bilingual practices. Floor empowers professionals to create nurturing environments that strengthen children's emotional well-being, learning, and sense of belonging, amplifying her lifelong commitment to advocacy and equity for all children. Welcome, Floor. Next, we have Monica Johnson, originally from Chicago. Monica is an early childhood educator and specialist with 17 years of experience, the author of The ABCs of Bonding, Strengthening Our Connection with Children, and the owner of Dropping Gems, with a J, not a G. An educational and business consultant focused on uniting parents and educators. Her work focuses on restoring and establishing strong foundational systems across homes, schools, and communities, grounded in the firm belief that we must raise our standards and values to truly support children. And last but not least, we have Rodney Solomon, who is the co-founder and executive director of Conscious Youth Development and Service, KYDS, a nonprofit dedicated to transforming youth, school, and communities through holistic and trauma-informed and restorative practices. With over a decade of experience in youth development, mindfulness, SEL, and restorative justice, Rodney blends lived experience, storytelling, and embodied practices to help young people and educators turn inner peace into personal power. His work centers on presence, connection, and awakening purpose as pathways to healing and leadership. Welcome, everyone, and thank you all for sharing your brilliance with us this morning. So we'll begin with this question. How does connection act as a buffer against trauma and adversity in your experience? And you can use your own personal life or any experience from your work. I welcome anyone to jump in. I'll also drop it in the chat.
I'll start
How
off
does
with one in I've done quite a bit of research on culturally responsive teachings and building relationships that are grounded in culture. And one of the things that I've seen, and I think this goes with any, with just really any concept, that the brain needs to have that safety, right? So it's not in fight or flight mode. It's not trying to see where are the dangers, Is this person really, for me or against me, or do they have my best interest? And I think when we look at building relationships through a culturally responsive way, we're able to connect with people in a deeper way. And I think that deeper way really enhances that connection that a child may have with a teacher. Um, because that connection, when they go to school, could be their only safety, right? It could be that relationship at school with their teacher is the only space that they have for a feeling of safety, a feeling of connection, a feeling that they matter, that they're valued, that they're seen. A lot of times we don't know what they're going back to. As an early childhood educator, I think one of my biggest things is to make sure that I am connected with children so that they have the skills to be able to go home and face that adversity or that trauma that's going on that I may not be aware of, right? I know they know this connection with Miss Floor. She listens to me, right? She is there when I'm crying and consoling me and making sure that I am heard through, oh, someone took my toy, right? No little thing is too little. That may be a big thing in their that they're dealing with at school. And it may be bigger to them because of the trauma and adversity that's happening in their homes, may or may not. But I think that that is how connection really acts as that buffer because we allow their brains, children's brains, to really feel safe in that environment and to be able to know what does that connection truly feels like, right? Because the brain doesn't know until it actually feels it. And the body doesn't know until the brain actually feels it. So I think that that connection is really how that acts as a buffer is it allows those children to experience true, genuine connection and a true level of safety.
Thank you for.
I'll go next. Hi everybody. Hope you guys can feel my energy through here. Based upon my experience working not only in early childhood, but from kindergarten all the way up to eighth grade, working in a lot of underserved or at-risk communities, as you may call them. Uh, part of big part of connection, my word I put in was bonding, and is I think it's deeper than just connecting. We have to get to know one another. We have to learn each other. And when we do this with our students, I always tell teachers, I cannot teach a student that does not connect or bond or respect me in some way, shape, form, or fashion. In order to get through to them, you have to reach them, right? And is being in a classroom or being around anyone, in my personal experience and opinion, to really help them, especially if it's like through traumatic experiences or adversity, you have to practice some level of empathy and put yourself into their shoes as much as possible, because all of our experiences are different. And you will be amazed at how much you could gain from helping a child just by hearing them out. I think anybody who feels unheard, if you give them the time to be heard, be seen, be felt, so much change can come from that within their mindset, within their skills and the abilities to do anything, their confidence, the ability to get anything done, right? And I think that's why connection is very important. Ooh, man, I'm trying not to get all what's the word? But back in the day, we were big with the unity, and we were able to accomplish so much during so many hard times, right? Because of connection, because of understanding, because of bonding, getting to know one another and learning. And also, now that I know how to help you, I know your strengths, your weaknesses, things of that nature, your capacity, of what you could hold and what you're working on and things of that nature. Now I'm in a better space to help you grow through that. And I think sometimes we don't take the time nowadays because it's so instant. We want instant gratification. We are quick to cut people off. We are quick to judge. We are quick to have these preconceived notions that we don't necessarily give people the opportunity to come out of whatever it is. And then having someone around who has been through adversity and has gotten through that, that's even more motivating. You when you're around somebody who's going through a hard time and you could share, I've been through these similar situations, or I may have been through this situation and it may not be similar to you, but I understand what it feels like to persevere. Trust me, it helps because now somebody see it's not just me going through this, no matter the age. And I think sometimes nowadays, what we're talking about with the loneliness and everybody being so separated and disconnected, that's why we are having these mental issues. You think that you're the only person going through it, and you're not, right? And we just have to learn how to give each other grace. Think of all the rappers who said, "Oh, my teacher used to say I wasn't gonna be nothing, but now they millionaires." You know what I'm saying? Think of all the people who were not that greatest, especially young men, right? I know a lot of men who went to HBCUs who was like, man, if this school never gave me a chance, who would have known what I would have went through? We grow. We're supposed to grow through life. And I think someone in the chat has said something about an experience, a negative experience. And sometimes we have that, right? And it's just we have to learn through a lot of things. And one of the things I love a lot about any classes is teaching about capacity or growth and not taking things so personal. I think we take so much so personal nowadays. We're not this instant gratification of comparing yourself to somebody else or thinking something is something that is not. We are all in the same boat. And I think the minute that we figure that out again and get back to that root of unity within our communities with each other, we will be able to continue because we've some persevering people. Don't get it twisted. We persevere. Okay. We will continue to persevere and it won't feel so hard. Right. So the question would be, how do we continue to get there? So I want to end it. I'm going to end my part right there.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I think it was beautiful. And I think it's very clear, like how transformative connection is. And I love what you were saying, Nick, about the unity, right? And I believe as within, so without. And if we want to really begin to strengthen our connection on the outside to really be protective of trauma, we have to strengthen our connection on the inside. And what we see in the world on the outside, I truly believe is the reflection of the disconnection on the inside that we have in our individual self. And one thing our co-founder says all the time, safety begins within. So if we want to bring that safety in our connection to others, it's like connection is phenomenal, it's needed, but now it's like, okay, what's the quality of your connection? Is it on dial-up, right? Are you on, DSL? Do you have cable, or you got that new FiOS where it's moving, where it's like when we sit down, that energy is felt. That energy is contagious, and we always let educators know, man, like that first curriculum is your nervous system. Like when you walk into the room, like how are you even standing? What's your body language? Like what's the disposition on your face? You know what I'm saying? Like those are all signals that are being picked up at a subconscious level. And the research shows when you look at the science of mirror neurons, right? Like you watch a movie, you see the scene, it's like you're in the movie too. You know, you're on your couch, but your nervous system responded as if you were observing that same thing. So these kids, you could have the outfit on, the makeup on, and we could look fly. But these kids, when they look into your eyes, they're feeling your nervous system. And we want to have connection that is trauma informed and healing informed. And you have to realize a dysregulated adult can never regulate a dysregulated child. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to be the embodiment of the healing I want to have in that child, in that connection. So like it's just such an individual. Like a lot of teachers be like, hey, you know what? We do PDs all the time. Like, how do you get it off? I'm like, I got my wine, I got my bourbon. I'm like, hey, I'm not knocking it. But when little Johnny asks you, hey, miss, how you making it through your tough times? Can you tell little Johnny to grab that wine, to grab that bourbon? So it's like, hey, enjoy it. Drink and be merry, but hey, we have to embody the skills that are needed. And the science is key. And one last level of it is like, the science of it. But if you haven't heard of an organization called Heart Math Institute, they're a research institution that studies the electromagnetic field of your heart. And they speak about it. When you're in a coherent state, when your mind is thinking positive, hopeful, optimistic thought, like you're speaking about the empathy and walking through the shoes, and then you can elevate a state of emotion that is in place of gratitude and joy. Like just your presence alone is going to regulate that child's nervous system. They have a direct signal every single day when you come into the classroom of what safety really is. And now when you can be hopeful and you can like face like it's not going to be perfect kumbaya, but if they see you optimistic, they can see you hopeful. You're training their brain to release dopamine that pushes them through difficult times. And when we understand this science, that's why the practice is so important. Your stillness, your self-regulation, your skill set around how you cultivate your inner self is going to be the energy that is felt to those children who don't know what a regulated space is. And they always remember that individual and the presence that you have gained with them. And on top of that, all the knowledge and all the trust and the rapport building that only amplifies that connection because something magnetic is moving through you and your words and your presence. So that is one way I believe we can all amplify our ability to support those who are going through those adverse experiences just by our own presence and embodiment in this day and age. So, yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you for elevating that, Rodney. I think sometimes when we're talking about character and social skills, there's this assumption sometimes that we just have it when really the people who have it have practiced it. And we take for granted like the environment families set in their home that give them opportunities to practice those skills. So I appreciate the offer to practice because we're practicing in the environment we're in. What we're practicing now can be our choice, but oftentimes it's unconscious when we're not paying attention to it. Thank you. So the next question I invite you to answer, and we'll start with Rodney and go the backwards this time, is how does your organization, work, or life purpose intentionally create belonging?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And multiple dimensions. But I co-created a nonprofit organization around 11, 12 years ago. And it was more like a passion project. And I was working in a community with a lot of trauma, a lot of poverty, a lot of, violence, and just like the things you see in urban communities are things that is imbalanced. But I saw the gifts, I saw the uniqueness, I saw the beauty, and I saw the disconnection, even from their own household, even in their own classroom, in their own table, and I would do things in the program, but I was inspired to do more than just complain about it. And me and a good friend of mine, we said, you know what, let's create spaces where people can be themselves authentically and connect with other and really truly. But this before we even knew about what belonging was, but we're like, how do we build safety? How do we build trust? How do we build rapport so that when people show up, they're not just here, they're in an environment. And we learned that in our programming, any of our events, whether it be a youth program, whether it be an open mic night, whether it be a staff development, like there's a structure that you can cultivate and create a container that really allows folks to feel like they belong. And one thing is, as a facilitator, authenticity and vulnerability. It's like you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be everything together, but like, hey, I can speak authentically. Hey, you know what? I get angry sometimes too, but hey, Mr. Ronnie's working on his breathing exercises. Mr. Ronnie's taking more walks, and today is not my day, but that's the key as a facilitator. Number two is like the agreements. That's the container. That's the measurement of safety. Like, hey, I know that, okay, this, and not just saying the agreements, but acknowledging them when the agreements are broken and they are not in alignment, you know? And when you have those agreements, when you have a space where we have clear intention, then you bring in regulation. We did the practice. Now everyone is regulating. We're all coming from different spaces, different areas, but that brief moment of pause, that opportunity to breathe, that opportunity to release tension, or just to notice creates a buffer. So that way I'm not just reacting. I can now respond. And then we bring the connection together. And that's the component. Like when you develop the safety, when you develop regulation, when you develop authenticity, then the container is felt in a certain degree. They may not show up fully that first day, but a month, 2 months, a year, as they find safety within themselves, as they feel trust and they have a rapport built within the community, you see it unfold beautifully. And that's what happens when you are consistent and you maintain a routine. So those core aspects of authenticity, setting agreements, creating regulation, and then moving into connection. So that way we're moving from a place of at least 1% more safety and regulation. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate the consistency part because sometimes we expect things to change overnight. And because I work with children, I know better than to expect, well, actually, human beings in general, I know better than to expect the behavior to change just because I said something about it today. So thank you for elevating the consistency part because as adults, I think we forget that with children. Mynika?
Hi again, everyone. So we're dropping gems with a J, yes. GEMS is an acronym. It stands for jewels everyone must see. And the reason is a long story, so I'm not gonna go there. But part of it is because I believe that everyone, once this internet thing, 2020 was a crazy year, right? But I think that we started to forget to see the value in ourselves as human beings. Like there's a lot of value there. So everyone is a gem to me. You are a jewel that everyone must see. Your children, your community, your work, everything that you do is a jewel, right? And we have to value ourselves. We have to value our communities. We have to value the work that we do. And so Dropping Gems focuses on children, parents, teachers, and small business owner, right? Our villages are not the same. That's what I was seeing. And in this world of technology, I wanted to see how can we get back to repairing our villages and rebuilding that foundational structure in education with our children, because if that foundation is not there, we must build on the rock, not in the sand, right? And I feel like we've been building on sand and we are starting to lose our way. So I wanted to do what I could do to help. And in the school systems, unfortunately, the children is not as what we want it to be at every school, and is not as consistent in every school. And with the services that we offer for children, we allow them to be themselves, learn at their pace, and be supported, because I think that's the key thing that's missing in the schools, right? Then the next thing was for parents to bridge the gap between parents and educators. The parent engagement has dropped tremendously in schools, and the parents are upset at the teachers. The teachers are upset at the parents. Like, no, is everybody's fault. Okay, accountability. So, how can I help you with that? Well, teachers, parents, you are your child's first and organic teacher. Your home is the first classroom, regardless of what you say and not, regardless if you got skill set. It happens, right? Intentionally and unintentionally. So let me help you tap into your natural parenting, teacher skills, right? I'm not making nobody be a parent. But let me help you tap into your natural organic teaching skills. Let me teach you some of the things that's going on behind the scenes that you may not understand, right? And how to navigate those conversations, those difficult conversations with the schools or with the teachers, and explain to you why it's important, right? So that we could bridge that gap. And then now we have those same kind of conversations in personal development with the teachers at the schools or a consultant to help them understand what the parents' plight is, right? Because if we could get the schools together and we could get our businesses together, we could get our communities together, right? It all works together. I call it the educational circle of life. So that is one of my biggest missions, because I have we see it. We see it every day, and I don't want to complain about something. I want to be the change that I want to see. And the best way to do that is to help you understand some things that you may not understand, but this, because we're in this world, let me help you understand it, right? And every day I go along, I'm learning something new too, and that's the beauty of community. So that's how my organization and what I do help.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I I thank you, Rodney, for saying as a facilitator, I don't have to be perfect. I connected to something you just said, Monica, and when you came on mute, it flew out of my head. So if it comes back, I will share it with you all. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to Floor because it just flew out.
Thank you. I too appreciate Rodney and Mainika for what you've shared, because I've seen that as well as being as a facilitator now, and um, getting to teach about Culturas That Care is an organization that I am starting because of the need that we need to connect with our own selves, as Rodney said. We need to be able to see what our energy is giving out, but also understand us on how we process information, how we connect with our culture. What is our culture? And something that I've noticed through that work is that not a lot of people identify with their own culture. They get lost and confused as to what this is just a Hispanic thing, or this is just an immigrant thing, or this is just, an African American thing. But it really is every single person. We talk about the skills, we talk about what's being taught in our homes, we talk about the connections. Those are a part of your culture. How you build connection, how you build relationships, how you communicate, all of that is built through your culture. And every culture is different depending on the home, right? So I'm an immigrant from Mexico, and the way that my grandparents communicate living in Mexico is going to be so completely different than the way I communicate now, because I have, my Mexican roots, but I also have an American upbringing, right? So there's two different forms of communicating there and building those relationships. And I think for Culturas That Care, one of my biggest things in building connection is building a connection with yourself first. If you can have an understanding of yourself, of your culture, of your biases, of where your processing information come from and how you communicate, then you're better able to understand someone else. You're better able to actually meet them where they are, right? We talk about meeting people where they're at, meeting them there, but how do you know where they're at if you have no idea what their background is? If you have no idea what your own background is? Traveling around Tennessee, I've noticed that I would ask people and say, how many of you work with communities of different backgrounds? And a lot of the times people didn't raise their hands, and they didn't think, um, white people had culture. And I had a family one time come to me and said, I don't know what my culture is. And she's from East Tennessee. I said, there's a lot of culture in East Tennessee. You just have to find where your culture is at. And so I think a lot of our um, disagreements or misunderstandings of one another and where we come from the lack of connection with ourselves. And so that's what Culturas That Cares wants to bring, is building that connection through culture. If we can understand that and we can build through that, then as Mainika said, we have that community, right? We have that understanding, and we're better able to support our children through what they already know, what their families know. We strengthen those parent engagements. We also strengthen our community empowerment, right? Because a lot of the times, our communities do not feel empowered to come out and say, hey, this policy is really affecting me, or they may not know. And so if we can take a look at that through a culturally responsive lens, then we're better able to understand the needs of our children, of our communities, and our own selves.
Thank you. Thank you. It came back and it was divine synchronicity that I forgot it because now I can say what I'm seeing the thread in all your responses is how sometimes we take access to information for granted because everything you're doing is connecting people to information so that they can make the best decisions for themselves. That's why it was divine synchronicity, because I can link up all the y'all responses. Thank you. So I think one thing I want to add to the response is another thread in everything you all said was
Did she pause? Did she freeze on y'all end too?
to honor the individual, culturally, whether it is educational skills, whether it is inner peace. What I think is essential to belonging is being able to just see that individual in front of you and not impose your expectation of who they're supposed to show up as onto them. It's not that you're not going to have it, you do, because it's there, we're all human. But I think the embodiment that Rodney lifts up is really felt when you can take that expectation and put it on a shelf and just be with the person or the group that you're with. So we'll ask you all before we open it up to the entire community is what challenges exist when you start to build these inclusive communities? And what lessons can you share that about your particular model that will help in general or that will help a community? And we can jumble it up, popcorn it this time. What challenges exist when building inclusive communities, and what lessons can you share about your model to support others?
Can I speak on something real quick before I forget? It kind of answers your question as well, and it piggybacks off of Floor because I have worked with some families in the Hispanic communities, and it is a challenge sometimes because I am not fluent in Spanish, but I'm getting better, baby. I am. One of the things when you're talking about learning your culture and knowing yourself, I think that is so important in every culture because I have had Hispanic students who didn't want to speak Spanish because nobody in their class spoke Spanish. And then they are ashamed of themselves. And I'm like, what? Do you know how great it is to know how to speak two languages? Can you teach me, please? Like I want to know, and that's how I get them so excited about wanting to know more about their culture because I want to know more, and I think that has been a challenge, even with teaching, because I see it in the school systems, and it could be frustrating because sometimes things go way left there, but it's just a lack of verbiage, not knowing these things in English. It's not because there's something wrong with them. They are perfectly fine in their own language, but but sometimes that could make them ashamed, and we see it all the time in our communities, and they just speak English, so building that confidence in our children and helping them be self-aware, aware of their history, aware of their culture, aware of where they come from is a big key, you guys, and it's so necessary and it's so important, and it's no matter what color they are, we have to remind them it is very, very awesome to be you and never to be ashamed of where you come from. So that has been something that I have had issues with a lot for years, of people not being happy about who they are inside. And we need to change that. And that starts at home, y'all, too. So educate your babies about who they are, why they great. You tell them about great, 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 great grandma and all them. Like, you got to, right? It is still something in you. I still remember poems and stuff from when I was in second grade. It could be embedded in that child. You just got to take the time to do it.
Thank you, Monica. When you said teach your babies, I thought of you, Rodney, because as we got on the planning call for this meeting, this symbol popped up, and then his son was standing behind him. He said, "Why do you have a ohm?" And I'm just using that as an example. When you like teach your babies, they really do listen to you, and it's important because I know Keru didn't learn that by himself. He had it at home. That's why he was able to recognize a word in a completely different language. But you also that also it also helps tells me that you what you preach is something that's also embodied at home.
And I hope so, but I definitely would piggyback off what you just mentioned too. And I believe the first aspect of a lot of challenges when you try to bring community together, it's like, but one thing I know at the foundation, the individual who is guiding that community, spirituality has to be a foundation. Someone put inside there that I know everyone has their own way of practice, religion. I'm talking about spirituality, the core aspect of connecting to something greater and recognizing that every obstacle, every hurdle, every blockage in your path is not to bring you down. It's actually part of your transformation. It's actually try to direct you where you have to be. And I think if we see it in a lot of the Western framework, it's so beautiful, but it removes spirituality, and that keeps you locked in just matter and informed. And I'm not saying that's bad or good, but when you realize something greater or can be something higher, it gives hope and allows optimism to become more natural. And on the flip side, the things I recognize as lessons, I wrote some things down, man. You they say build it and people will come, but I actually realized people have to feel it and they come. And you have to build relationships. Like, you can have the greatest plan, the greatest blueprint, the greatest marketing campaign, but if you're not building authentic connection, if you're not building relationships, if you're not going to other people's communities and to their events and to their organization, like, and not just show up to be performative, but like really trying to get to know like what's going on. Like, I know life is moving fast, but we realize relationships is the highest currency when you're connecting with schools, when you're connecting to businesses, different organizations, is really the best currency to make things happen. And also collaborating. Don't do it alone. It's like someone put in the chat, it's this lone wolf energy. Like, hey, that's out. It's the we now. It's not the me. It is transforming the me to the highest state you can, and then seeing how this could connect to the we and recognizing like we're not gonna be able to do this alone. And if we think that is gonna happen, this is the age where unification and deepening connection is and really not gatekeeping and holding things as mine and we, but realizing like, yo, what happens when I give out more? When I share knowledge, I share resource information, what begins to return back to me and begin to shift some of this Western construct of consciousness that we've been given, but awaken to our cultural wisdom, our ancestral knowledge, and recognizing we have so much tools to research and how do they go about ways of living? And we have to download that, if not download, just reawaken and remember that information that's already inherently inside of us to begin to build that deeper connection. So yeah, I'm complete. I think that's what kind of comes to my mind and heart for that question.
Thank you. Thank you. Gloria, you want to close us out?
Yes. So I would like to say that I think one of the challenges, there are many challenges, I think, to building inclusive environments, and communities. But I think the biggest one, as we've all said, is that connection to your culture, but also, relating that to the families, right? Because that's the biggest thing as professionals. How do we relate this to the families? How do we get them included in this conversation? And that's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen in all of our works is getting the families involved because that really makes the movement even greater, right? More powerful is when we get the communities involved. And so one of the lessons from that I've learned, and I wish I would have learned this as I was an early childhood educator, but asking them about their culture and getting them involved and getting them, hey, how do you do this, right? What do you what kind of songs do you sing for transitions or what kind of cultural I like sayings do you say to your child that's not negative or that's positive, or how do you guys joke around, things like that, that really build on those inclusive environments. And also teaching them about different cultures, teaching them about different celebrations and how they too can connect with everyone around the world versus maybe we will see, if you travel to India, you'll get to experience that. But why not bring India to us, right? Why not bring that culture and those ways of being over to us and teaching them through that? And again, we can all do that, right? It starts at home. It starts with teaching about yourself, about your own culture, about how you communicate, and building on that. Because when we build on that, then we're able to see those disparities, right? We're able to really teach them and see, oh, we're, this is how we're being treated, or this is how we have to move in the environment. How do we move? And then we create powerful, powerful youth that are seeing that, because I'm seeing that now with my literacy program, where we talk about those things and these kids want to be engaged. These are sixth graders talking about what's going to happen to me, Miss Floor. These are Hispanic children coming to me. How can I help? What can I do to make sure that my mom is not in trouble? And those are hard conversations that we need to have. However, um, I'm glad that they've come to a space where they do feel safe to have those conversations. So I think building those safe, inclusive environments are going to create just more connection in how we communicate with each other and what we're communicating with each other and how we can change our future and how we can help our youth and giving them the skills to be able to do that, right? Because we can only fight for so long until the new generation comes up. So I think empowering them is going to be the most beneficial thing for change.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. One last thing I want to add to the conversation that I think is a serious barrier to building inclusive communities is this term coined by Brene Brown called comparative suffering. And what that does is the dominant culture has divided us into these pockets and they're giving us a struggle story. And because of comparative suffering, we all want our struggle story to be the best or the worst, depending on how you want. It's the struggle story. My suffering is bigger than yours, so my issue should be prioritized. And I say it's a story that dominant culture offers us. And I use dominant culture intentionally and not white, because dominant culture and whiteness is not white people. That they're two different things. And dominant culture gives you that story to keep us divided. And what I love to present is that what we don't all realize is at the core of it, it's oppression, it's patriarchal need to control our bodies. And that gets in the way of true connection and actually building inclusive communities. So we have 4 minutes, and I want to honor everyone's time because this was only scheduled for an hour. If you can stay on, we would love it because we're about to open the conversation to the community. And I do want to say these kinds of conversations are at the heart of why Healing Centered Community Work Group leans on community conversations to inspire actions that lead to preventative measures that mitigate adverse childhood experiences and promote positive experiences for our children and also for the child that's still in us that is asking for love. So I am going to ask Alexis to drop the spotlight so we can invite everyone. If you can, turn on your camera so we can have an opportunity to have a conversation. I have a couple of questions that I can share. However, I want to leave it open for everyone to just reflect on the conversation or share something about what one of the panelists shared that resonated with you.
Come on, don't be shy.
I think one of the most powerful words spoken this morning is the word belonging, and how and how rich and complicated it can be. And yet, when a child or a parent or any of us do feel like we belong where we are, um, there's nothing better. It's very powerful. And I think this is what these kind of conversations are all about. Greater understanding, a greater sense of belonging, and a greater desire to take appropriate risks to belong and also to understand.
Thank you, Sue.
Miss Sue, I thought you was the lady from Devil Wears Prada. I was gonna say we got celebrity in here. Hi. You look just like her. Y'all not family? Okay, I'm sorry.
Ooh, a Meryl Streep doppelganger.
Yes, you look just like her.
You just made my day.
Yes, girl, they should put you in the movie as a stunt double or something.
Ooh. So I'll ask the question and I invite anyone to either drop it in the chat or come off mute and share. What is one insight that is inspiring a commitment you're going to make today to building inclusive communities or elevating belonging?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
I'll drop it in the chat. What is one insight that's inspiring a commitment you're going to make today to continue to build inclusive communities and elevate belonging?
Well, I'm gonna start I love with helping everyone see the best within and us getting ourselves together, right? Um, I think that's an important factor to help even the students. And I think we say it in different ways when we're dealing with social and emotional development with younger children than we would say with the older students, but trying to pin in and emphasize on that a lot more for me, that would be great. And even for myself, because, we still learn and we still grow as we get this information.
Someone dropped in the chat, Courtney said, helping people know who they are and that in that they bring value to this space. Thank you, Courtney.
I really liked when Rodney said, as within, so without, just thinking about, and I think Monica also said that 2020 um, just kind of was like a turning point for us and not maybe the most positive way. Because I've thought a lot about just like so many things that our world is facing and communities are facing and how it feels like a moral issue a lot of times for me. And so just looking at like internally how I can know myself well enough to like value myself and then be able to know and value other people. And just kind of like, I guess, continuing to think about how much internal work needs to be done for us to see like outcomes in our communities the way that we want to see them.
Mhm. Thank you, Lizzie.
I think it was really interesting. I can't remember which who said it, but when they were talking about how we may struggle with our own selves and then trying to ensure that children are not, and that we have to start within first before we're able to pour coping skills and all those other things. I think somebody mentioned something about going and have a glass of wine or something. I can't remember the exact verbiage, but those are not adequate coping skills, right? That we would share with young children or young people. So us being able to have those before we're able to focus it onto children, because a lot of us are not in the best headspace, and it's very hard for us to give what we don't have.
Thank you, Monique. Because I don't want to take too much of your time, I am going to close us out, and I invite you to think about one connection that supported you this week. Take a moment after this session and say thank you, because connection is how we prevent harm, and connection is how we heal. Thank you so much for being part of this community and adding your voice to this conversation. Our next conversation will be in April. I invite you to look for either send me a message, I'll put my email in the chat, to add you to the Ultra Excel Nashville listserv so you can register for it. Can't, my brain won't let me do two things at a time. Emails in the chat. And to close us out, I am going to say grow in connection and grow with connection. Thank you, and I'm wishing you all well.
Bye, everyone. Nice meeting you.
Keep your peace, family.
Thank you, everyone.
This is great, Annie. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here, Sue. I really appreciate it.
I was a little late, but it was so rewarding. So rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you think so. The idea is to get people's turn on the light, or
Yeah.
maybe enter the room so
Yeah.
that some light bulbs can go off, and then we
Yeah.
can start to see momentum in the work that we're doing.
And this reminds me of one of Brian Stevenson's quotes that he says, he's author of Just Mercy, when he says, all of us do such important work, but our work will only abide to the extent that we grow our hope quotient.
Oh, there you go.
So this is part of my hope quotient for this week. Thank
Glad we
you.
could increase your hope quotient.
Yes, ma'am. All right. All right. Bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 See ya. All right. Bye, Annie. Thanks for having me.
Bye, dear.
Have
And
fun.
I'll email you
Okay.
for next steps.
Okay. Then any feedback? Any feedback?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Annie, I'm about to end this
Yeah, I was
meeting because
like,
I
can
can't
I?
start the new one.
Perfect. I was like, can I end this?
Yeah,
And the
please.
recording will.
Yeah. No,
Okay, perfect. All right.
the
I'll see you
recording will
soon.
still be fine. Yeah.
I'll
Okay,
see you
see you
soon.
soon.
Bye.
All right, bye.